So in 2023 was when I kind of really kicked off reviewing pickleball paddles here on this channel. And normally I would just kind of intersperse some other reviews. And since then, I have decided to only do pickleball paddle reviews or pickleball related content. It might be tangentially related, like a water bottle or something like that. But for the most part, it's going to be directly related to pickleball. So with that in mind, here is every paddle review I did in 2023. I recorded 13 paddle reviews for I think 14 or maybe even 15 paddles in 2023. So without further ado, here are those reviews with a tiny bit of editing. And I've got some pickleball paddles to review, but we can't do it in weather like this. So let's go inside. Okay, now that we're inside, let's unbox these paddles and see what we have here. These are Niupipo pickleball paddles. And let's see. This is the MX36, which is, I believe the MX36 is kind of branded as an intermediate level paddle, and like the previous set that I reviewed, it comes with a carrying case. I mean, most people are probably not going to use this carrying case if they have their own bag. And it comes with a pair of indoor balls, or rather indoor balls and outdoor balls, which I have played with these and I like them a lot. I think they're some people like their balls a little bouncier, and some people like them to be a little stiffer so that they don't bounce as much indoor. And these outdoor balls are good. I've mentioned this before. If you're in a cold climate and you want to play with a ball that's not going to crack easily in cold climates, these have they're like just right for that. So let me put these aside here. They're probably going to roll off the table. All right, so that's done. And just like with the 4 paddle set that I reviewed, you get some extra grip tape here. Helps you identify the difference between the 2 paddles. And then we have a pair of paddles here. Before we actually unwrap one of these, let's take a look at the specification information that they have here. So again, the MX6, it is 15 by almost 8 inches wide and half an inch thick, so it's close to 14 millimeters. It weighs between 7.6 and 7.8 ounces. It's got a fiberglass face with a polypropylene honeycomb interior. And like I said, you get 2 paddles, 1 bag, 2 indoor balls, 2 outdoor balls, and the grip tapes. And yeah, like I said, this is on their website kind of marketed towards the intermediate player, or maybe you could say this is their intermediate level paddle. They do make pro level paddles. If you don't know, they sponsor Frank Anthony Davis, who's kind of one of the premier singles players. I'm trying to get the signature paddle from them. We'll see what happens. And there we go. So the surface of this is quite smooth. So if you are used to a paddle that's going to give you grip and spin, I don't think this one is it. They do tend to have these paddles, these Niupipo paddles do tend to have a larger handle as well, which I like. I'm currently using a Gearbox CX-14, and the handle felt a little small to me. And so I actually overwrapped it to get a little extra diameter on the paddle handle. Feels good in my hand. I like this design as compared to the last ones that I reviewed. And I'm very happy with the way this looks and how it has come out. So the center of balance, as you can see, is right along here. So it really gives it feels a little head heavy. If that weight were balanced a little bit closer to the handle, I think that would be very nice. You've got your edge guard here that helps it out. Again, fiberglass surface, honeycomb interior. This isn't a very grippy surface, but I think for most players who are either just starting out or are looking to have a better paddle than what you pick up at, you know, one of those beginner sets you pick up at a big box store, this is going to do better for you. All right, so a wardrobe change, and a few days later, we're on to another set of pickleball paddles. Let's see what we have here. This is a double set that I got. 2 different sets, and we're going to take a look at these. Now this is the MX25 set. Again, marketed as an intermediate paddle. Comes in the carrying case. Comes with, a lot of these come with the same kind of setup, whether it's 2 or 4 paddles. They all come with outdoor balls and indoor balls. So as you might have guessed, I have plenty of pickleballs now. Okay, so before I actually talk about this paddle, let me go through the specifications here. This is the MX25, like I said. Again, about 15.5 inches by a little over 7 3/4, and it says 0.51 inches, so we're in the 13-14 millimeter range here as far as thickness. Now this says the paddle weighs 1.63 pounds. That's got to be a misprint because you're not playing with a 1 pound paddle, a 1.5 pound paddle. That's got to be for both of the paddles. So yeah, you know, 8 ounce, which actually is, that seems a little heavy. Anyway, a fiberglass face, polypropylene honeycomb, and I mentioned the balls and the paddles. So let's open this up and see what we have. All right, so this is more of a gray pattern that you can see here. Gray geometric pattern. Let me pull this protective plastic off of the handle here so I can get a sense of the handle. Coincidentally, I played with a new pickleballer the other day. It was his 4th time playing, and he still hadn't taken the plastic wrap off of his paddle, and he had a Niupipo paddle. Okay, so this one, this one feels a little more top heavy than the other one. I'm willing to bet that that center of gravity, yeah, see? So that center of gravity for this paddle is more here. Let me go get the last paddle, pull out the previous paddle, and we'll look at them side by side. Okay, so while I was grabbing the MX36 that we were talking about earlier, I did weigh this thing, and it's somewhere between 7.8 and 8 ounces. And depending on where I put it on my scale, it kind of depends on where the weight is, but it's probably good to say this is an 8 ounce paddle. It does feel heavier in my hand than the MX36. I mean, it definitely feels heavier. Let's look at a couple of the differences here. I think you'll see that the thickness is pretty much the same. The handles, the MX36 kind of has a more, I guess you would say, premium handle to it because it has the colored stitching to match the graphics. I mean, I guess technically you could say that the stitching on this matches the graphics on this as well. This specifically says it's USA Pickleball approved, whereas I don't see anything in the literature or on this paddle that says it's USA Pickleball approved. Giving it the knuckle test, you can hear there, they both have a good sweet spot in the middle, but when you get out to the outsides of this MX36, You can hear the difference in the sweet spots. This MX25, again, when you move out to the edges, you can hear a difference in it. So if you're looking for an intermediate paddle, I think these are a good choice. I have played with Niupipo paddles before, and I don't have any complaints about them. And I'll be trying them out this weekend when I'm playing in my rec league. And if anything kind of pops up that I noticed that needs to be mentioned, whether good or bad, I'll probably make a short about it. But other than that, I think good recommendations. Buy them in a 2 or 4 paddle set. You're going to get the best value for them. And if you like content like this, don't forget to paddle that like button. Today I'm reviewing the Explorer Pro pickleball paddle from Niupipo. If you watched my previous review on the Frank Anthony Davis paddle, you know that that one has been discontinued as of this recording of this video, and this is one that I think you'll find that you could purchase that plays similarly to the Frank Anthony Davis paddle. So I've got some video here of me unboxing the paddle. We'll play that, and then we'll come back and talk more about this paddle. All right, so here's the Explorer Pro from Niupipo. Just going to unbox it here real quickly. Looks like a little advertisement there for learning pickleball. Little tag indicating that it's USA Pickleball approved. The Explorer Pioneer. There's all the stats. I'll flash that up here for you to see it. Got the paddle itself and a case for it. So there's the Explorer. It's got the same graphics on both sides. Let's pull the plastic off here. There we go. Feels nice. So here's the Frank Anthony Davis. Here's the Explorer Pro. I think these are pretty much the same paddle. They look to be the same thickness. Handles are the same length and same thickness. So we'll play with these and give you a review. The Explorer Pro is USA Pickleball approved for tournament play. It says it was developed by pros and designed for pros. It's got a graphite carbon fiber with added grit that helps with the pop and spin, a polypropylene honeycomb core that helps with control and power. It's also got a very comfortable grip, in my opinion. The paddle comes in at just about 16 inches long, 15.94 inches, and it's nearly 8 inches wide, 7.91 inches. The paddle face is 0.54 inches, which is going to get you around 14 millimeters. The handle length is 4.96 inches, and the handle diameter is 1.35 inches, which gets you a circumference of 4.45 inches. The Explorer Pro also has a really nice edge guard. I found that it's a good quality edge guard, and one of the things that I really like about it is that it comes with a cover. There are $200 and $300 paddles that don't come with a cover. All right, so when it comes to the specifications of this paddle, they're nearly identical to the Frank Anthony Davis paddle. The one exception is that this is a little bit lighter. It's just slightly over 8 ounces, whereas the Frank Anthony Davis one, I think, had a little bit more weight added to it. It's also a more balanced paddle. So the Frank Anthony Davis had a little more weight towards the front of the paddle or the top of the paddle, whereas this one feels like the weight is more in the middle, and it gives you a more balanced feel in your hand. Just like with the last paddle, as you can see here, this is more intended for a one-handed use. You can get a two-handed backhand out of this, but I usually prefer a little bit longer handle in order to do that. I was able to generate a decent amount of spin with this when I was playing with it, and I did feel like it had a little pop and a little power. Definitely more pop than my Gearbox that I play with, but not as much control or spin that I can generate with that Gearbox. I think I played about 5 or 6 games with this particular paddle, and they all went fairly well as they can for a 3.5 player like me. I had a really good time playing with this paddle. I never felt like it was too poppy for my skill level. I think one thing that a lot of people run into sometimes is they go get a paddle to generate power, and because of their skill level, I have seen this with some players anyway, who are in the 3 to 4 range. They get a real poppy paddle, and then they have a lot of trouble controlling the ball. So while this does have a good amount of pop, it doesn't lose a ton of control in exchange for that. This particular paddle runs between $70 and $80. So it's not going to break the bank if you're just looking for paddles that you want to explore with, or if you're coming off of your first paddle or something like this. Even though this paddle is part of their professional line, it does feel more like an intermediate paddle to me than a pro paddle. So if you're looking to upgrade your paddle and get out there and improve your skill level, I think this is a good paddle to start doing that with. This is probably, compared to paddles that have come out in the last year or so, you would probably call this 1.0 technology, maybe 1.5, but the graphite face paddles with the polymer, they've been able to do a lot more with them these days. They're starting to put foam around the edges to increase the size of the sweet spot. So it isn't what I would deem, it's not ancient technology, but it's definitely older technology compared to what you can get out there right now. So keep that in mind when you do go purchase this paddle. Today I'm reviewing the Frank Anthony Davis pickleball paddle from Niupipo. I want to start out with a disclaimer letting you know that this paddle is going to be discontinued probably pretty close to about the time that you watch this video. So keep that in mind if you plan to want to purchase this. Also, I want to thank Niupipo for sending me this paddle to review. So Frank Anthony Davis, when he was sponsored by Niupipo, worked with them to design this paddle, and I think that they did a pretty good job. We'll just come out straight out and say that. I think they did a great job designing this paddle. I enjoyed playing with this paddle. Let's run some video here of me unboxing it, and then we'll get a little bit more into my review. Okay, so here is the Frank Anthony Davis Niupipo Pioneer pickleball paddle that we are going to unbox. I want to thank the folks over at Niupipo for sending this along so that I could review it. There we go. Look at that. Wow. Comes with a paddle cover. Let's see if they've got any documentation in it. No. Let's see, anything under the foam? Nothing under the foam. So this has kind of got two different sides on it. It's got this black side and a white side. It's got the FAD logo there, find the positive, and then the big Niupipo symbol there. Let's take the plastic off here. it's a good size handle as far as the circumference. It's a little short. I like a two-handed backhand, so we're going to have to see how that works for me. But I mean, this is a good looking paddle. I really like it, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to review it. I'm planning to play tomorrow, so should be able to have a lot of fun with this paddle. The Niupipo Fad Professional has a thick core and a graphite face that's designed to absorb more energy. It's lightweight and offers a nice blend of power and control. It has a large face and a comfortable grip. The face material is a graphite carbon face. The core is a polymer honeycomb core. It comes in at 15.94 inches long, 7.91 inches wide, and it's about 14 millimeters thick. The handle length comes in at 4.96 inches with a diameter of 1.3 inches. The grip circumference comes in at 4.45 inches. It weighs about 8.1 to 8.45 ounces. Niupipo says the grip is waterproof, and they call the surface a frosted surface rather than a textured surface. So this paddle weighs anywhere between 8.1 and 8.4 ounces. So it's a little bit on the heavier side for most people. I found that most of that weight feels like it's up in the top of the paddle, which is going to give you a lot more follow through on your swing and get you a lot more pop off the paddle. I did feel the balls popped off this paddle quite well. This is a good combination of providing power as well as some control. It's not 100% control, I would say. You can get some fine shots in it. It's not so poppy that you can't get into a good dinking rally. But I think for the most part, if you want to classify this, I would classify this more on the power end with a little bit of control. I was able to generate a good amount of spin with this ball. I don't have any spin numbers, specifications, RPMs, or anything like that. But I did find that I could generate some good spin with this. And I was also able to counteract spin as well. A lot of people are looking at a paddle that's going to help them generate spin, but you also need to think about the fact that you're going to also need to use that in the same way to counteract spin that people are putting on you as well on the ball. So I did have a good experience with that. My paddle, my go-to paddle when I go to play is a Gearbox CX-14H. I found the ability to spin with this about the same. And I would say as far as control, my Gearbox, I had a little more control with my Gearbox than I did with this. Keep in mind that I'm an amateur player. I'm a 3.5 on a good day. So that's the point of view where this review is coming from. I would say if you are looking for a paddle to move up from maybe a basic paddle that you bought, or even one of Niupipo's intermediate paddles, and you don't want to break the bank, you don't want to spend $200 on a paddle, go for this paddle. Now, like I said, it's going to be discontinued, but I will have an option for you in an upcoming review that I think will be a fine replacement for this in the same price range. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Niupipo comes out with next as far as a professional paddle. This paddle is USA Pickleball approved. It's on their list. I played some really good games with this, made some good shots, and I was pretty pleased with the play of this paddle. If you've been looking at some of the newer paddles that are coming out these days, I would say that this paddle falls into the 1.0 technology when it comes to polymer and graphite paddles. Any of the newer ones that have come out in the last year or so are probably going to be more advanced and have better grit on them and things like that. I was really happy with the texture and the grit on this. It doesn't feel like it's sprayed on. It feels like it's actually part of the material, and so that's good. How much this is going to wear off and how fast it'll wear off, I don't know. I played 5 or 6 games with it, and I obviously didn't experience any kind of degradation or even see any degradation on the paddle. Today I'm going to give you a long-term review on the Gearbox CX-14H. I have been playing with this paddle for at least 3 months, probably closer to 4.5 or 5 months. I can't remember exactly when I got it. And I have been very satisfied with this paddle. So if you don't know about this, this is one of Gearbox's kind of top-end paddles, if you will. They say it's stable with a soft feel. They use this SST core technology. They have their own way of building the cores in these paddles that are different from the typical polypropylene hexagons that you see. This particular model has a 14 millimeter thickness, and it has a Toray T700 carbon fiber core with 3K woven carbon fiber ribbed finish, and they have their own patented carbon fiber chambers. This is their hyper shape, thus the H. Weighs in at about 18 ounces. I have the 3 15/16 handle. Sorry, this is kind of grody looking. I know I overwrapped it with white. It's got a decent handle length with 5 5/8 inches. I can get two-handed backhands with this. It's got an 8-inch width. This particular model, this is the model with the grit on it. Earlier there were some that were smooth, and it does have a 1-year warranty, and it is US APA approved. So one of the things that I really like about this paddle is the size of the sweet spot. It has a very large sweet spot, and the control that I get from this paddle because of the size of that sweet spot has helped me develop my game a little bit better. I reviewed the elongated version of this one a 1.5 years ago, I think. And at that time, my skill level was very beginner, and I really couldn't take advantage of the technology that's in this paddle. And I feel like now I'm able to get the spin and the control out of this paddle that is expected. I think overall you would consider this a balanced paddle. It's not going to be this giant power paddle that you're just going to blast balls back at people with. And it's not so soft that you feel like you're, playing with a slice of bread, so to speak. I've really enjoyed using this paddle. It's durable, and it plays well, and I haven't really felt personally any kind of degradation in the play of this paddle. And I play about 3 times a week, and usually I play anywhere between 6 and 10 games every time I go out and play, and I haven't felt like there's been any degradation to this paddle at all. I've clashed paddles with people, I've scraped it across the ground, and the thing is it's a tank, and it really just keeps on going. There are 2 things that I would say are cons for this paddle. The first is the price. This is a $200 paddle. So for the average recreational player who's just looking to move up from that Amazon paddle that they got for $30 to $50, this is going to seem like a huge jump when they're moving up to another paddle. The other thing is if you're looking for a paddle where you're going to get a lot of power out of it, this isn't going to be the paddle for you. Gearbox does have a new power line that they've come out with, and I think that's in response to people's reaction to this paddle, because this just doesn't have the power and the pop that a lot of other paddles do that are out on the market right now. But again, I think the durability of this paddle, how balanced the paddle is, and how well it plays overall outweighs that power factor. Okay, today we're taking a look at these AIEOPOSO brand pickleball paddles. These are, you know, one of the brands that you're going to find on Amazon that's kind of into the leisure sport category. These are not USAPA approved paddles, and they're really designed as kind of a gift and for beginners. I think these came in at about 7.7 ounces when I weighed them, which is really nice. The grips are pretty comfortable. They're a little short for me. I like to use a two-handed backhand, so they're a little short for me, but beginners may find these very nice. They're lightweight. I found them easy to swing, and yeah, I mean, they appear to be pretty durable. My son and I hit some balls around. You're going to see some footage of that later, and I didn't feel any buzzing, any rattling, or anything like that while I was hitting with these paddles. And they run for about 40 bucks for one paddle, and I think if you get a pair in a kit, they're around 70 bucks. So, you know, most people who are buying individual paddles, they're going to be paying in the $40 to $50 range. And I think as far as most of the leisure paddles that you're going to see out there, these are just as good quality as any of the other ones that you're going to find out there. Again, very much for a beginner. It's very poppy. There's no grit on the surface. And so control is going to come more from how you strike the ball than from the paddle itself. So let's hit some of that footage, and then I'll come back and give you my final thoughts. Hey, so we are out at Gavin Park, and we're going to give these AIEOPOSO paddles a try. We got the geometric design here with just kind of more of a flat grip, and then this kind of pink flowery design. It's got more of a ridged grip. They both feel pretty good in my hands, and edge guards look good. They're lightweight. I think when I weighed them, they were about 7.7 ounces, so pretty lightweight. They're durable, and they appear to be durable. You know, I mean, the edge guards aren't loose or anything like that. They sound good. There's no grit on these, and yeah, we'll check them out and hit a few balls around and let you know what we think about it. So we'll just start with some dinking. So yeah, they feel really good. I'm not feeling any vibrations. Let's start over. Not feeling any vibrations. I'm not hearing any kind of buzzing. And yeah, they're a little poppy, right? Because they're just polypropylene. So they're not really going to give us too much. We're going to start hitting some longer shots here. Nice little drop there. Another drop. Another drop. It's a little high, but let's try and get it a little lower. That's a good drop. That's a terrible drop. We'll serve some balls. We'll go odd side here. He snuck up. He tried to get the line. Let's go the even side. I don't know if I'm in the frame here, but we'll see. All right, we're gonna serve some balls here. Serve one to me. Yeah, really poppy. You can hear that they're pretty loud too. I'm pretty sure you can hear it. Let's go from the odd side. Yeah. Let's do it again. Oh, that one went flying. Let's do it again. Let's do it again, same angle. Long again. So hit me one this way. So you can get some, let's do some volleys. Come on, get them over. Put away. So the AIEOPOSO paddles, good beginner paddle, I think. The sweet spot is pretty small on these, you know, you don't really expect that much. They're pretty firm. You're not really feeling a lot of give in the core. And but otherwise, I think if you're a beginner and you're looking for a paddle that you can find on Amazon fairly inexpensively, I think you can get a pair of these for 70 bucks and it'll come with a couple balls. Individually, I think they're about 40 bucks. So a good value. And I think a lot like many of the paddles you find on Amazon, these are good starter paddles if you're just starting out and you don't want to go with some of the more, you know, a lot of the big box stores these days sell these beginner sets and they're wood inside, and that's just not going to give you a good feel. You want something that's at least got a honeycomb polypropylene core, and this is going to serve you well, I think. Today I'm reviewing the Aero Swipe pickleball paddle from Kasaca Sports. They were kind enough to send this to me along with two other ones, and I greatly appreciate that. So I'll talk about the specifications of this paddle, and then I'll get into my thoughts on how it plays and some overall thoughts on it. So the paddle face is made of T700 woven carbon fiber. The core is a polypropylene honeycomb core. Paddle length is 16 5/16, and the width is 7 5/8. It's a 13 millimeter paddle. The paddle weight is 8 ounces. I think this one came in at 8.1 ounces, so a little bit heavier. The grip length is 5 1/8, and the grip size is 4.5 inches, or the circumference is 4.5 inches. Okay, so the Aero Swipe fits in a category that I call leisure sports, but they have gone through the process of getting the paddle US APA approved, which is going to be a bonus. It means that it has met certain specifications, and this can be used in sanctioned tournament play. A lot of the leisure sport companies don't do that. Kasaca has chosen to do that, and they get a thumbs up for that as far as I'm concerned. So let's talk about some things that I didn't like about the paddle, and then we'll end on a positive note. So first off, this handle, the circumference is just too small. It just feels way too small in my hand. So if you're someone who has smaller hands, this might be a paddle that you will want to choose because of the size of the paddle. Second of all, I've never really liked this ribbed design. A lot of companies call this a comfort design, but I don't find it comfortable at all. An overgrip will fix that, obviously, but I like to play with the paddle as it comes out of the box. I don't like to add any weight or overgrips to it when I'm reviewing it. Second of all, although this one is not showing very many signs of wear because it hasn't been played with as much, I suspect it isn't going to have the same durability issue that the Rapid Fire is going to have, in that the coloring and the surface is going to wear off pretty quickly. Again, this hasn't been played with as much, so I'm not necessarily sure. I'm not 100% sure that that's going to be the case, but these all do seem to have a similar design and similar feel when it comes to build quality, and so that's a concern for me. All right, so this is an elongated paddle, so that's going to make it feel head heavy. So if you are someone who wants to crush balls, this is probably a good option for you. Typically, head heavy paddles will give you more power in your swing. This isn't overly heavy. I think it was 8.1 ounces or 8 ounces or something like that. It was pretty close to what it said on the box, so that's good as well. The handle is not quite long enough for a two-handed backhand. I think that's okay with an elongated paddle. The swing weight feels, even though it's a little head heavy, it doesn't feel particularly slow. It's not a fast paddle. I wouldn't classify it as a fast paddle like the Gearboxes, but it's also not slow despite it being head heavy. Again, and also a lot like the Rapid Fire, I don't feel like I have as much touch and control with this paddle as I have with similar 13mm paddles like a Gearbox. This paddle is in the $50 to $60 range, so if you're looking to try out a thin, edgeless pickleball paddle that's got a carbon fiber surface, this is a good option for you to upgrade from one of the beginner paddles that you may have picked up. Again, you're not going to have the touch and control as you would with a more expensive paddle. There are compromises that are going to be made. You may feel like the paddle is vibrating a little bit if you slam the balls. This one did feel a little buzzy in my hand, but not too much. Overall, I think it's a great paddle if you're a beginner player who's moving up and looking for a thinner, faster paddle than something you would get off of Amazon. Today I'm reviewing the Cosmic Ray pickleball paddle from Kasaca Sports. They were kind enough to send this along to me along with 2 other paddles to review. So I'll talk about the specifications and then give you my thoughts on the paddle. So this is an edgeless carbon fiber paddle. The paddle face is made of T700 woven carbon fiber. It's got a polypropylene honeycomb core. It's 16 5/16 long and 7 5/8 inches wide. It's got a 13mm core. The paddle's going to come in around 8 ounces. I think this one was 8.1 ounces. The grip length is 5 1/8 inches, and the grip circumference is 4 1/4 inch. So like the other paddles from Kasaca, this one does come with a neoprene cover. All of their paddles came with a neoprene cover. That's always nice. It helps you protect the paddle when you're transporting it or moving it around. And it's pretty much par for the course for these leisure sport paddles that you're going to find on Amazon. So like the Rapid Fire, this particular paddle, it does have a bit of a durability issue, I think. I'll show you some of the issues that we've come across while playing with it. You can see here where the coloring has chipped off of the paddle on the edges. In addition, the grit has worn down quite a bit. My daughter played with this paddle quite a lot. She did like playing with it, but she stopped playing with it because she felt like a buzz. It started buzzing in her hand. So as far as durability is concerned, you don't expect this to last more than 3 to 6 months, depending on how much you play. Now, that could just be the models that we received, but depending on how much you play, how many games you play a week, that's going to affect how any paddle lasts. As I mentioned with the Aero Swipe, the 4.5-inch grip circumference is just too small for my hand. So if you have smaller hands, you may prefer this paddle, but for me, it's just too small, and I don't really like this ribbed grip that a lot of these leisure sport companies are putting on their pickleball paddles. So let's talk about the positives of this paddle. Obviously, the price. A paddle like this, that's carbon fiber and edgeless, 13mm, it's priced between $60 and $90. That is extremely affordable. So if you're looking for a budget paddle, this is a good option for you when you're moving up from that first paddle you may have bought off of Amazon or at a department store. Additionally, this paddle, again, like the others, doesn't feel slow in my hand, but it doesn't feel fast either. My Gearbox feels way faster than this paddle. This particular one feels, you can see where the balance is on it here. So it's a little head heavy, but some people like a head heavy paddle can help generate a little more power. So overall, this is a good paddle. Nothing really stands out about the paddle. Again, the touch is going to be a little off compared to a premium paddle, but we're in the budget paddle market. One of the good things is that they did get USA Pickleball approval for this paddle. So it does meet those standards that you can use it in tournament play. So that does show that they're committed at least to hitting those standards. So overall, this is a good paddle. It's going to have some durability issues, but for the price range that it's in this budget leisure sport category. I think it's just fine for that. If you're not looking to play in tournaments pretty regularly, if you're just out playing for fun at your local courts, this is a good paddle for you. Or if you're looking to try out some of the thinner edgeless design paddles and you're kind of got sticker shock when you look at something like a Gearbox, this is a good step towards that to see if you're going to like it without dumping too much money into a premium paddle. So that's the Kasaca Cosmic Ray. Today I'm reviewing the Rapid Fire edgeless carbon fiber paddle from Kasaca Sports. They were kind enough to send this to me along with 2 others to review. So let's talk about the specifications, and then I'll give you my thoughts on the paddle overall. So the paddle face material is made out of T700 woven carbon fiber. The core is a polypropylene honeycomb core. The paddle length is 15/13/16 inches long. The paddle width is 7 7/8 inches long, and it's a 13 millimeter thick paddle. They say the paddles weigh about 8 ounces. This one came in at 7.9 ounces. The grip length is 5 1/8, and the grip circumference is 4 7/16. So like a lot of pickleball paddles in what I call the leisure sport category, this one does come with a neoprene cover, which is very nice. It does help to protect it, and if you happen to buy one down the road that doesn't come with a cover, you've got a cover available for you. Now these paddles that they sell range anywhere from $70 to about $90. So these aren't exactly in the your first paddle that you want to buy category, but if you're looking to try out an edgeless carbon fiber paddle, these are a good choice to get you started. So let's start with a few things that I found a little disappointing about the paddle. First of all is its durability. You can see here, and I'll try to zoom in on this, let's see if we can get it closer there, that the surface has started to wear off quite a bit on this paddle. I think it's been played with for about 2 months, and the graphics are wearing off, and the grit is wearing off as well in certain locations. The other thing too is for my hand, the handle is a little small, but other people may like a smaller handle. I normally put at least one over grip on my paddles, so I can usually overcome that with even a second over grip. Additionally, despite this paddle being lighter than my Gearbox GX-14, this paddle feels heavier in my hand than the Gearbox does. It doesn't move through the air. My hand doesn't feel as fast with it in the air. So let's talk about the things that I do like about it. Number one, even though this is what I call, again, a leisure sport paddle, they did go through the process of getting it USAPA approved, which means you can play with this in sanctioned tournaments. A lot of the leisure sport paddles that you're finding on Amazon, they don't go through the approval process. They're just banging out, stamping out a bunch of paddles, hoping to make some money. They went through the process of actually getting the paddle approved, which I really like. The other thing that I really like is the price for a carbon fiber paddle that's edgeless. This is a low price. Under $100 for a paddle like that is going to be great. I think it's a good starter paddle if you're looking to try out an edgeless paddle, or if you're looking to try out a thinner paddle like this one, you know, a 13 millimeter paddle. As far as playability, it played similarly to my Gearbox, but it didn't quite have the touch of the Gearbox. In terms of that, it did take me a little while to dial in my dinks, and it did take me a little while to really get used to the paddle, because this paddle is not as forgiving as my Gearbox is. I think it's probably got more power than it, but I'm more of a control player, and I try not to rely on power too much. So if you're a player that's looking into using a thinner edgeless paddle like this one, maybe you've seen some people playing with the Gearboxes out on the pickleball courts, but the prices are kind of shocking to you, this is a good way to get started with one of these paddles. For under $100, it's a great value, but you do have to understand that with that low cost comes some compromises. The durability of the paddle, it's not as fast as a Gearbox, and I mean, as far as the handle has held up and everything else, but you'll notice a difference in the way that it plays, just because this is using just some older technology, and the Gearbox is using newer technology to help the touch and feel of the paddle. So that's the Kasaca Cosmic Fire pickleball paddle. Today I'm reviewing the Vatic Pro Flash. I have the 16mm variant. It comes in a 14mm variant. I've been playing with this paddle for about 3 months now, so I'm excited to tell you about it. The surface of the Vatic Pro Flash is made of raw Toray T700 carbon fiber. It's got thermoformed edges and a unibody construction, and there's foam injected in the walls for an increased sweet spot. The average weight for the 16mm version is 8 to 8.2 ounces, and the average weight for the 14mm version is 7.8 to 8 ounces. The total length of the paddle comes in at 16.3 inches, and the width of the paddle comes in at 7.7 inches. The grip circumference is 4.125 inches, and the grip length is 5.3 inches, which is great for two-handed backhands. The grip has polyurethane inserts, and the core is made of optimized C7 polymers. The core thickness, of course, 14 or 16 millimeters, and the edge guard is made of anti-abrasion TPU. All right, so let's talk about the pop and power of this paddle first. Balls come off this paddle very nicely. It's very responsive, and I'm really impressed with the power of this paddle. I moved from a Gearbox CX-14H, which was a 14mm paddle, big time control paddle, to this paddle, and man, did I really have to adjust my game in order to get more control. It took a few games, actually it took a few weeks for me really to get to the point where I could confidently dink the ball, but man, my put away power is there, which I didn't have with my Gearbox. So moving on to spin and control. Well, it's raw carbon fiber, so it generates a lot of spin. It's not a stinking ugly amount of spin that I've seen with some other people's paddles, but man, I can really put some curves on this ball. I've actually managed to even serve balls around an opponent that's crowding the center line on the other team. So I wish I had some footage of that, but man, I can get some serious spin with this. Now, as far as control, I was really surprised at the lack of control with this 16mm model. Vatic says that the 16mm model is supposed to be for control, but holy moly, it took me a while to dial it in. Maybe it's because I just wasn't used to a paddle with this kind of power, but once dialed in, yeah, I can really get some great control with it. I have seen other reviews of the 14mm model, and people actually say that they have more control with the 14mm than the 16mm model. So until I get one of those, we'll have to see, but once dialed in, the control is there, and I think that this raw surface helps because the ball is biting and staying on the paddle longer. So weight and speed. The specifications say that this thing comes in between 8 and 8.2 ounces. I did not weigh this originally, but I have 2 overgrips on this, and it weighs 8.4 ounces right now, and I think it came in at like 8.2 when I got it. I got one of the heavier ones, 8.1, 8.2, but the weight does not at all affect the speed of this paddle. This is, for its size, a quite fast paddle. Again, is it as fast as a Gearbox? No, absolutely not. But I think the shape helps it, and the fact that so much of the weight now, because of the overgrips, is down more towards the handle, it feels a lot faster in my hand than it did when it originally got to me. So let's talk about the grip and the appearance. The grip is nice and long. It's over 5 inches, so you can get those two-handed backhands in. Additionally, the 4 and 1¼ inches, I like my grips bigger, so as I mentioned, it's double overwrapped, and this, you know, gets it to a comfortable size. I think overwrapping the paddle actually helped with the control, because now I'm not squeezing down on the paddle as much. And the overall appearance I like. I would have liked to have seen a grip tape that matched the orange in the logo, or even if the edge guard matched the logo, that would have made it look super awesome. I've seen some people put some orange electrical tape around the edges of this paddle. Even if this band here that holds the grip on had been orange, that would have been cool too. I like the touch here on the bottom with the end cap. And let me show you the case. The case is really sweet too. I like the way that it looks. It's easy to find in my bag. I mean, besides the fact that I put a purple grip around it, but really looks cool, and I like the way that it looks. So let's talk about durability and some of the other features of this paddle. First of all, the warranty is only 3 months. I'd like to see a 1-year warranty on this paddle, but given its price point, I understand why there's not a 1-year warranty. We'll get to that in a moment. As far as durability, this thing is a tank. It's a beast. I've smashed it into other paddles. I've hit it into fences, not intentionally on either one of those. I've dropped the paddle and there's no buzz. Nothing feels loose. It still feels as solid as when I first got it. All right, my air conditioner just came on, but I need to finish this video. So if you hear some buzzing in the background, I apologize. Price and value. This is $140. They make a prism version of this paddle that's less, but for $140 for a quality paddle like this, I don't think you can go wrong. I think this is in just the right spot, right value for someone who is looking for a better paddle and a paddle that's going to last them a while. Who is this paddle for? I think you need to be at least a 3.0 player if you want to use this paddle. This is not for a beginner. Low intermediate to advanced players are really going to be able to take advantage of this paddle. If you're looking for more power, you want to get this paddle. And I think also if you're just looking for a paddle that's going to last you a while, that you're not going to have to return or buy another one, this is going to be a good paddle for you. Final thoughts. I absolutely dig this paddle. It is my go-to paddle when I play. I still go back to my Gearbox every once in a while if I'm feeling a little bit too punchy, but man, this is a great paddle. I have really enjoyed playing with it. I enjoy the power that I get out of it. I'm putting away balls that I couldn't put away before with this paddle, and with the carbon fiber face, I'm getting a lot of really nice spin off the ball, and it's helping me place the ball nicely and put a nice shape on my shots. Hey everyone, today I'm reviewing the BLTend pickleball paddles. I'm going to show you the unboxing here real quick, and then we'll get to my thoughts on this paddle. I have another unboxing for you today, and this time it's the BLTend pickleball paddle set. So let's see what we have here. Right off the bat, we've got 1, 2, 3, looks like 4 extra grips, 2 indoor balls, 2 outdoor balls. We'll get to the paddles in a minute. There's more in here. They also included 4 cooling towels. And then here's a paddle. Pretty basic design, as you can see. It's your typical sandwich paddle. Really wrapped up here, which is good because when the paddle was left on my porch, it was raining. Thank you, FedEx, or whoever delivered it. There's the paddle. It's your typical sandwich paddle. It is USA Pickleball approved. I verified that on their website. So there's the BLTend Pickleball paddle set. You got 4 paddles, 4 balls, 2 indoor, 2 outdoor, 4 cooling towels, and 4 extra overgrips. Okay, so this is a $100 paddle set that you can pick up from Amazon, and it doesn't stand out from any of the other $100 paddle sets that you'll find on Amazon. You get 4 paddles, you get 4 overgrips, you get 4 balls, 2 indoor, 2 outdoor, and they include some cooling towels with this. The one thing that I will say that is in favor of this paddle is that they did go through the process of getting the paddle US Pickleball approved. So that means it meets the standards for playing in a tournament. And a lot of these recreational paddle companies don't necessarily do that, because for every model you have to get approval. So if they change the design on here, they have to get another approval. It could be basically the same paddle except for the graphics on it, and you have to get another approval for it. So all in all, I think that is a net positive for the paddle. So I'll just go through some of the things that I look for in a paddle when I review one. I'm probably not going to go really in depth on this because the person who's going to want this paddle is going to be a beginner. This is a great family gift. So if you have kids and you're looking to get started playing pickleball, this is a good set that you can get started with. You can do it for under $100. As far as pop and power for this class of paddle, it's you know, right there. It's average with it. I didn't notice anything exceptional about it. The one thing with having a paddle that has a fiberglass face and a polypropylene core is these things are very loud. So if you live someplace where people have been complaining about the noise of pickleball paddles, these will certainly contribute. For spin and control, again, right on par with what you would expect from a paddle like this. The surface is very smooth, and this graphic that's kind of screen printed on there is a little raised. So while the cooling paddles are a nice touch, I think what they could have done is put a little texture on this. Even just a little bit would have greatly increased the amount of spin and control you would have with this paddle. They wouldn't even have to put a ton on it. And I think that the amount of grit, the spray-on grit that they would have been able to put would, you know, kind of come out to the same value as this. As far as durability is concerned, I haven't played with this paddle very long, but I've had paddles similar to this. And in fact, I still have one that I could pull out today, 2 years later, and still play with. Now, this isn't gonna survive a knee smack or throwing it around or anything like that, but I think for regular recreational play, it's going to be just fine. As far as the grip and appearance go, I've talked about this before in the past. I am not a fan of these ribbed grips like this, personally, because they typically don't line up with where my fingers are on the grip. They do provide some over grips, And actually each of the grips that they provide for paddles are a different color, so that helps. You know, hey, I've got the green one, I've got the red one, blue one, purple one, whatever. So that's good for helping to identify it and someone picking a paddle, so to speak. But other than that, I'm not, like, again, not a fan of these ribbed grips, but for the most part, I think most people don't necessarily have a problem with it. The handle, as you can see, is fairly small. It fits the whole width of my hand, so not really doing any two-handed backhands with this. But again, this is geared towards beginner and recreational players. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of recreational players going for two-handed backhands. I mean, it can be done, but it would be pretty difficult to do it. As far as value is concerned, again, $100 for 4 paddles, comes out to 25 bucks a paddle. You get the over grips, you get the balls. For recreational play, these will last you a few months. If you're playing indoor, the balls will actually probably last you even longer because you don't have a rough surface that's going to degrade the ball as quickly as, say, outside. They might get a little soft, but other than that, you'll be in pretty good shape. So overall, again, if you're just looking for a gift for your family, for some recreational play, you want to get started playing pickleball, the BLTend pickleball paddle set, I don't think you can go wrong with it. If you start developing really any kind of skill level, you will want to probably upgrade from this pretty quickly. But again, for beginner recreational play, the BLTend pickleball paddle set is going to be a good buy and a good value for you. Whenever and I'll say this again about the USAPA approval, people might say, well, it's a cheap paddle. It's a $25 paddle that they went through the process of getting approved. And you are going to find very few manufacturers on Amazon that are going to go through that process. When I see that a leisure sport company has gone through the trouble and the expense of getting a paddle USAPA approved, that tells me that they have confidence in their product, and it gives me confidence recommending the paddle to you. So today I'm going to sort of have a pickleball paddle review. This is more of a first impressions. My friend let me play with his 6-0 double black diamond last night, and I wanted to kind of give you an initial reaction on how I thought it played and give you some thoughts on the type of player that I think this paddle is for. So the very first thing that I noticed is when I got it in my hand was that it felt a lot lighter than my Vatic Pro. And the amazing thing is that I think it's about the same weight, but because the weight is so close to the handle, the paddle has a very low swing weight. And that let me, in the game that I was playing, my hands were pretty fast at the kitchen line. And I didn't feel like I was swinging like an 8.2 ounce paddle. I thought maybe he had put lead tape on it towards the throat, and that wasn't the case at all. It felt very light in the hand, despite the fact that it weighed as much, if not more, than my Vatic Pro. One of the things that I noticed immediately too, as I was hitting the ball and dinking and doing resets, is that this paddle has a huge sweet spot. I was really impressed with the size of the sweet spot and how forgiving the paddle is, because you know, you get some paddles and you play with them and they have a very small sweet spot. They're not very forgiving, and the paddle's going to twist in your hand like crazy. Now, this paddle did twist a bit in my hand, but nothing like some of the more lightweight paddles that I've played with that are in the 7.8, 7.7 ounce range. The 6-0 double black diamond has a lot of pop and a lot of power. I was really impressed with the amount of power that I could get in it and how the ball came off the face of the paddle. But it didn't really suffer too much in the control area. Once I got it dialed in the game, I was able to control my dinks and to control my resets. And I think that just comes from my personal experience of playing with a paddle that isn't necessarily as forgiving as this one. And so I was able to dial that in fairly quickly. I did have some high dinks and some thirds, but eventually I got that dialed in, and my partner and I at the time, we won our game. Another thing that I noticed about this paddle is that I could generate a lot of spin with this. Even though the person who loaned me his paddle had been playing with it for months now, the surface was still able to generate the spin that I expected. I had the pop and the power that I expected from it. The sweet spot was still large. And I had a great time playing with this paddle. Let's just say that. So who is this paddle for? Well, it's probably not going to be for a beginner. I think there's too much pop and too much power on this paddle for a beginner to play with, unless they have some kind of background in a racket sport where they're used to being able to control their grip and their swing. I think obviously intermediate to advanced players will be able to take advantage of this paddle, and clearly it's fairly durable. The guy that I play with, he wails on that thing, and so it still seems to perform like a brand new paddle. So today I am reviewing the Bond Pursuer. They sent this to me, and we'll get into it as soon as we finish talking about the specifications. So the Bond Pursuer has an edgeless T700 carbon sandblast surface, so no raw carbon fiber here. A 16mm honeycomb core. It weighs 7.8 to 8.3 ounces. Mine came in at about 8.1 ounces. It's 16.45 inches long and 7.4 inches wide. And the grip has an advertised length of 5.35 inches and 4.125 inch circumference. So let's talk about pop and power. The face is really lively. I liked it a lot, and I could generate quite a bit of power. It did take me a little while to get my dinks dialed in, but once I did, I was playing quite well with it. Additionally, the sweet spot is pretty good. I did like the size of the sweet spot. The only difference, something that I'm not used to playing with, is with a hole here. If you catch the ball down here, your shot's ruined at that point pretty much. So as far as spin and control are concerned, I was able to generate a lot of spin with this. I don't do any kind of spin measurements or twist weight or anything like that, but I could really tell that some of the balls that I was hitting were really curving the way I wanted them to curve, after a serve especially. Additionally, as far as, I think I mentioned it before, at the net, I had a little more trouble controlling my dinks at first. I had some high dinks, but once you get used to how the paddle plays, it feels like any other power paddle. I will say, like, this core does not give. I'm squeezing it right now, and there's almost no give in it. And so you're really going to have to get used to dinking with this thing. If you're not used to a paddle that has less control, this is going to be tough for you to get dialed in. So at 8.1 ounces, this paddle is about half an ounce lighter than my Vatic Pro that I play with pretty regularly. Keeping in mind that I've put 2 overgrips on my Vatic Pro, and I played with this without an overgrip on it at all. It feels light and fast in my hand. A lot of the weight is down towards, even though there's a hole here, the weight does feel like it's more down towards the handle of the paddle. So as you can see there, that's where the balance point is on the paddle, which definitely shows it's more closer to the handle, which makes the paddle feel very fast in my hand. So let's talk about the grip and the appearance. I really like the graphics on the Pursuer here. It's not, too over the top, and it's got even design on the edge here They've got their branding on the side there. The grip feels very comfortable in my hand. It's one of the few paddles where I felt like I could actually play without putting an overgrip on it right out of the box. And I like the color of the grip and the way it matches the rest of the paddle. I want to take a minute to talk a little bit about some of Bond's other paddles as well. They've collaborated with artists to provide very unique paddle faces, and I think that's really cool of them. They're finding artists, getting good artwork, and putting them on the paddle faces, so you just don't see the same boring old paddles out there. And that's one of the things I like about this color and the design on it. It does not look like all the other paddles out on the pickleball court. All right, hey everybody, it's John from the future. Well, sort of. Anyway, you get the idea. Let's talk price and value. I had to record this afterwards because after recording my initial review, Bond sent me a promo code. So this paddle retails at $200. And I think a lot of recreational and casual players might balk at that, but here's something to think about. They offer a lifetime warranty on manufacturing defects, missing parts, and any other flaws that might come about just from normal play. Now, if you're going to scratch it and things like that, chips on the surface, that's not going to be covered. But a lifetime warranty. And I think that shows that they stand behind their product and they think that they have a really good product. So Bond has given me a code, John40, all caps, and you'll get 40% off of this paddle, which makes it $120, which I think is an excellent value. They also offer free shipping, so I think all around you're getting a good offer on the paddle and you're getting free shipping. They're going to stand behind their product with a lifetime warranty. I honestly don't think you can go wrong for $120. So that code, John40, is only good at bondpickleball.com, and you can use it until the end of March 2024. Okay, so who is this paddle for? I definitely don't think this is for the beginner pickleball player unless they're coming from some other racket sport, because without having that finesse and that control of the paddle, you're just going to be frustrated with constantly dinking the ball high and hitting the ball out. I think if you're an intermediate to advanced player, so 3.5 to 5.0, this paddle will be great for you if you're looking for something that has a lively face and has that put away power. So I think Bond's approach to engaging artists is a great way to bring some really cool designs to the face of a pickleball paddle. I think the lack of a cover on the Pursuer is a missed opportunity for Bond, because they could have provided a cover that had some artwork on it. In addition, I think that their lifetime warranty is a great feature, and it shows that Bond Pickleball with this Pursuer paddle is really looking to stand behind their product and not just trying to make a quick buck like so many of the other paddle manufacturers that you see popping up online and on Amazon. So today I'm reviewing the Core Reaction Pro MX1000. Let's talk about the specs and then I'll get into my review. So the MX1000 comes in a 14mm and a 16mm variant. I have the 16mm variant. It has a total length of 15.75 inches. The handle is 4.75 inches long. The grip circumference is 4.125 inches. And it weighs in between 7.8 and 8.1 ounces. Mine was a little on the lighter side, and I did add an overgrip on it, which kind of brought it up closer to the 8-ounce range. It's got a T700 carbon fiber surface. It's got a unibody construction, and it's basically got your typical polypropylene honeycomb core. So as far as pop and power are concerned, the paddle does have power, not what you would see out of, say, a 14 or 13 millimeter paddle. And I think that's partially due to the lack of pop on this. You're not going to see the ball popping off the face of this paddle. It's not that it's super buttery, but because of the surface and the way that it feels, the ball tends to dwell on the surface a little bit longer than some of your other paddles. So if you're a control player that's looking for a paddle that can also give you a little bit more put away power, I think this is a good paddle for you. So as far as control and spin are concerned, I already mentioned the fact that the ball does tend to dwell on the surface of the paddle quite a bit. I was able to get my dinks in quite nicely with this paddle and also generate lots of spin, especially on serves with this paddle. It's really great and good at really getting a hold of that ball. You're really seeing a little more dwell time than most 16mm paddles that I've seen and played with. And so you're going to get a lot of control, I think, with this paddle. So let's talk about the grip and the appearance. As you can see, I've got an over grip on this. The grip that came with this paddle is quite thin. And unfortunately, that made it difficult for me to play with because the grip is mostly squared. And you should be able to see some pictures right now that are showing that after I took the grip off. It's a pretty square grip. So if you're used to a more octagonal grip, you're probably not going to be comfortable with this in your hand. You may want to put an overwrap or two on it to bulk it up a bit so that you have more control over how you're holding the paddle. As far as the color is concerned, I like the white and the black. It's kind of got a real stark appearance. You don't see a lot of black and white paddles out there. It'd be really neat if you could get this in multiple colors, so you could pick your edge guard color and your grip color. Maybe they could offer that as a customization offer for an upcharge. So this paddle out of the box weighed in at 7.7 ounces. With the overgrip that I put on it, it's now at 8 ounces. The paddle is fast. It's fast in the hand, and I really like how I can respond at the net with this paddle. And yeah, so the weight is good. It's nice and low. Which makes it very customizable if you want to add lead tape to the sides to increase the size of the sweet spot, or just change the balance of the paddle in general. So who is this paddle for? Well, I think if you are a recreational player that's looking for a paddle that's going to perform more, maybe you're an amateur looking to start getting into tournaments and you're a control player, this is going to be the paddle for you. If you can generate a lot of power on your own because of either your size or your technique, this is also a good paddle for you. If you're looking for something that is going to give you more power just because of the way that it's made, I don't think it's for you. This is a quite balanced paddle, leaning more on the control side. Everyone has their opinions on how a particular paddle plays. This one plays a lot more like a control paddle to me than it does a power paddle. Hey, I just needed to jump in here real quickly because I forgot that I didn't talk about the price and value of this paddle when I was doing my main review. This joker is on sale right now for like around $87 at Core's website. You are not going to find a paddle of this quality for under $100 anywhere. This is a great quality paddle, great value you're getting from it. Even though I don't like the grip, other people may like the grip. So I say if it's under $100, you're looking for another paddle, this is a great opportunity for you to get a good paddle, a good balanced paddle. So that's the Core Reaction Pro MX1000. I think this is a great value if you are looking to upgrade your paddle and you just want another paddle maybe to have in your bag. I know sometimes I like to bring different paddles with me because maybe one day the one paddle I'm playing with, I'm just not feeling it. And so I want to change paddles. I want something with a little more control, or I want something with a little more power depending on who I'm playing against. And this is a good paddle to have in your arsenal. So there you have it, the 14 pickleball paddles that I reviewed in 2013. There are links down in the description for them. They're affiliate links. The ones that I will continue to recommend are the Core MX1000 and the Vatic paddles. That's it for this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye.